How is love like an onion? Let's find out. Hey Revision Squad, how's it going? It's me, Liam, aka Mr. Knight, aka DystopiaJunkie. If you've clicked on this video, it's because you're after some analysis of one of the WJEC Eduqas Poetry Anthology poems. Great! As you can probably tell by now, we're going to be looking at Carol Ann Duffy's poem Valentine in this video. It's on page 12 of your beloved poetry anthology. Before we get started, I recommend that you grab a pen, at least 3 different highlighters, and some extra paper, just in case you run out of space around your copy of the poem. Right, so if you've watched any of my other videos in this series, you should know the drill by now. But if somehow you've not watched any of those videos yet, then a link to the playlist that they all appear in should be appearing on screen about now. So how about you click it and go through all of the poems in the anthology? Right, so in this video I will read the poem, go through its context and provide a close reading. As well as that, I will consider the poem's meaning, mood and the poet's motivation. I will think about themes, and then finally at the end of the video, because I'm super lovely like that, there will be an optional revision task for you to complete. If this video helps you with your GCSE revision, then please do consider dropping it a like and subscribing to my channel DystopiaJunkie. That way, all upcoming revision content will end up in your subscription feed. And hey, if you turn on that notification bell as well, you'll even receive a notification whenever I drop a new video. Okay, so generic cringy YouTuber self-promotion begging aside, here is the poem. Make sure that you follow along, either on screen or by using your anthology. Valentine. Not a red rose or a satin heart. I give you an onion. It is a moon wrapped in brown paper. It promises light like the careful undressing of love. Here. It will blind you with tears like a lover. It will make your reflection a wobbling photo of grief. I am trying to be truthful. Not a cute card or kissogram. I give you an onion. Its fierce kiss will stay on your lips, possessive and faithful as we are, for as long as we are. Take it. Its platinum loops shrink to a wedding ring, if you like. Lethal. Its scent will cling to your fingers, cling to your knife. So there we go, that is the poem. I probably don't need to remind you of this, but just to be safe, context is equal to 1/3 of your marks in the GCSE exam, so it's worth us spending a little bit of time thinking about it. So Carol Ann Duffy is a contemporary Scottish poet who was also the Poet Laureate from 2009 to earlier this year, 2019. Her writing is highly acclaimed. In particular, her writing often explores ideas about gender, oppression, and sexuality, and the intersection of these ideas, so being where they meet and cross. Carol Ann Duffy is openly gay, and she was the first LGBTQ+, Scottish, and female poet laureate. She was in fact a front runner for the position in 1999 10 years before she eventually was appointed it, but lost out to Andrew Motion, who is another poet. She has since claimed, though, that she wouldn't have accepted the role at that time anyway, as she was in a lesbian relationship with another poet and also had a young daughter, and she didn't really welcome the public attention or scrutiny at that point. Originally written in 1993, Valentine was written after a radio station asked Duffy to write an original poem for Valentine's Day. Okay, so we're going to go about analysing the poem in a slightly different way in this video. Before looking at it in a super close way, I think it's important for us to have a quick overall look at the poem. That way, we can get a straightforward but important idea established first. But before we think about answering a question, now's your last warning to get those 3 highlighters and to set up your own key. So make sure you do that and do that quick. So the overall idea that I want us to think about first is related to the poem's structure. I really recommend that you pause the video and have a think about the question that I've given you. What do you notice about the poem's overall structure? What is it or is it not? What could the poem's structure suggest or symbolise or reflect or represent? Right, so despite being a love poem, and I promise you this is a love poem, Valentine does not follow any of the conventions of traditional love poetry. For example, it's not a sonnet, and it does not use rhyming couplets, and so on. This shows a rejection of traditional love on the poet's part, which might relate to her lesbianism, as being part of the LGBTQ+ community was still not seen as traditional, and nor was it widely understood or accepted in the 1990s. The poem uses free verse instead, which is a poetic form that is characterized by having no set rhyme scheme or rhythm, and so on. By being quite loose in this sense, it inadvertently mimics the rhythm and flow of natural speech. This could make the poem's message seem more authentic. By stripping it of any formal pretenses, it could appear to be more like a genuine and impassioned plea from one lover to another. Using free verse could also suggest a sort of freedom about love shared in this poem. It is not bound by convention or forced to be a certain way, and so the persona of the poem can express themselves how they see best fit. Alright, back to usual service. Here is the poem's title, and we're going to think about its language, connotations, and expectations. So there we go. It's sort of 3 questions in one. Have a read of them, pause the video, make some notes of your own. Okay, so Valentine establishes the theme of love, as Valentine's Day has connotations of roses and flowers, hearts, chocolates, and so on. Things that have all become quite cliched images of romance, and quite a materialistic romance at that too. Certainly, by calling the poem Valentine, we would expect that it would be about traditional love and traditional expressions of love. Okay, so here are the first 2 stanzas of the poem. As this poem is somewhat irregularly structured, I'll be breaking it down into manageable chunks where I see best fit. Duffy's writing is rich in both linguistic and imagistic ways, and so we have a fair few questions relating to those ideas. In fact, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, questions. If you'd like to pause the video and have a go at answering them for yourself, now's a great time to do that. So the first line of the poem introduces two fairly traditional or typically romantic images, a red rose and a satin heart. Satin is a fabric, and so this could be like a cuddly toy in the shape of a heart or something. However, not is used as an adverb at the start of the line, turning the whole sentence into a negative. Duffy is making it clear right at the start of the poem that she is rejecting traditional romantic images. As you can see, I've drawn a double-headed arrow between the two annotations I've made on this stanza so far. These two ideas are strongly intertwined, and I would want that to be reflected in my notes. At a simple level, the pronoun I ensures that we know that this poem is written from a first-person perspective, and the pronoun you shows that there is a clear intended audience for this poem. Thinking in a slightly more sophisticated way, though, we could also say that the effect of these pronouns is that the poem has an intimate feel to it. The onion is perhaps the single most important image in this whole poem. Much of the imagery that comes later in the poem relates back to it, so you could say that the onion is used as an extended metaphor for love throughout the poem. Thinking in a slightly more sophisticated and nuanced way, we could also say that the onion is the poem's central conceit. A conceit is a type of metaphor that is unusual or unexpected. In other words, unconventional. This is perhaps a bit more fitting for the onion in this poem. By using the onion as a metaphor for love, Duffy is using an atypical symbol, perhaps suggesting that the love in this poem is not heterosexual, reflecting Duffy's sexuality, maybe. The onion could also suggest that love is multi-layered, just like an ogre, but also that it is very natural. Onions are a natural product, after all. What other connotations do you have for the onion? Please do let me know down in the comments section below. By comparing the onion, and therefore love, to a moon, Duffy is suggesting that it is special and otherworldly. Just like in our discussion of She Walks in Beauty, which is another anthology poem, using the moon as a romantic image is less common in literature than the sun would be. Again, perhaps this choice of image is suggestive of Duffy's rejection of traditional symbols of love. The line, "It promises light," is Duffy alluding to all of the positive things that love can bring. The verb promises is interesting though, as promises can be broken, and this is an idea that we might come back to a little bit later. The careful undressing of love can mean a couple of things. Most obviously, it could refer to sexual intimacy, but it could also refer to an emotional undressing, as lovers bring down their defences and boundaries and make themselves vulnerable. Regardless, Duffy seems to suggest that these two aspects of love are aspects that promise light. And here we have lines 6 to 12. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions to look at for these lines. So have a look at them. What do you think? Pause the video now and have a go at answering them on your own. Here indicates that the poem's persona is now literally giving the onion to someone, perhaps even the reader. By ending the sentence immediately, it suggests that there's a sort of silence as the recipient accepts the gift and tries to come to terms with it. This effect is reinforced by the line ending here too. There's a silence and gap and break in the poem. So the verb blind and the nouns tears and grief create a negative tone in this stanza. Duffy is presenting the negative side of love, because as much as love can bring happiness and joy and promise so much light, it can also make you terribly sad, either when it ends or through jealousy and arguments. This side of love is one that is explored less in traditional romantic poetry, showing that Duffy is rejecting traditional depictions of love in her poem. Now this is an idea that is reinforced by the simile like a lover, as Duffy is explicitly expressing the idea that lovers can make each other sad. The line, "I am trying to be truthful," is quite interesting, as it could suggest a number of things. The speaker of the poem could be defending the fact that they have shown the negative side to love, and that they are only doing it in order to be honest with their lover. On the other hand, if you emphasize the word trying in this line, the interpretation is slightly different. The interpretation could be that honesty and love do not always go hand in hand, and that love can be secretive and deceptive. This interpretation could link back to the word promises from earlier in the poem. Not a cute card or a kissogram repeats the negative construction from the first line of the poem. It is dismissing two images of love, a card and a kissogram, which is a romantic and comic message delivered by a third party, which is usually accompanied with a kiss. Again, dismissing these two images of love suggests that the love in this poem is beyond what is considered typical or traditional. Here we have lines 13 to 17, and with those we have another 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. And these questions are simple enough, I think, but they do open up quite interesting ideas. So why not pause the video and have a go at making your own annotations? You want answers to those questions now? Don't be silly. This is the end of part 1 of my analysis of Carol Ann Duffy's poem Valentine. So you're going to have to maybe work on those annotations on your own for a little bit longer, I'm afraid. Part 2 is going to come out really soon, so keep your eyes peeled. But in the meantime, just to make sure that you don't miss out on that, why not subscribe to my channel, throw this video a like, and turn on that notification bell too. That way you definitely won't miss out on part 2 when it drops. Anyway, I hope you have an awesome rest for the day, and I'll see you really soon. Cheers.